Many people don't want to live in a country just to get a passport because they don't have the time or the ability to move there permanently. Since they don't have ancestors with other citizenship either, their only option is to choose among the countries that offer citizenship by merit or by investment, because they don't feel safe in their own countries knowing that something could happen overnight and throw everything into chaos, leaving them powerless. These are the options anyone can pursue without needing to live in the mentioned countries, whether to get a second passport or to avoid having to live a number of months just to keep a temporary or permanent residency valid, just in case if something happens, like an insurance policy. First, let's talk about passports. Depending on which one you have, it might not only give you a second chance or help you escape in case of collapse, but also improve your freedom of movement, ease of banking, or international reputation. Turkey is the country that has sold the most citizenship by investment, not because its passport is the best, since that title used to belong to Malta before this program was shut down, but because it's not a non-refundable donation. Instead, it works through the purchase of real estate worth $400,000, which you hold for 3 years. You can rent it out during that time to earn returns, and they'll sell it to recover your investment while keeping the citizenship. You don't necessarily have to live in Turkey. The function of this passport could be to leave your country using the new passport, because when certain events happens, like during COVID, people were only allowed to leave if they had a document from another country. Last week I have been in Istanbul with my lawyer because we have processed a successful application from a Mexican citizen. Then we have Serbia. Thanks to a donation of €500,000, you can obtain the Serbian passport and citizenship in under 6 months, granted through a honorable act. This would give you dual citizenship. This week we arranged this for a Colombian client who, given the situation in his country, doesn't trust the political and economic instability and prefers to have a second option, so he can be the first to get out. You can find similar options in Albania, Austria, Argentina, Georgia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Hungary, Poland, or even the Dominican Republic through real estate investment and the right connections. But each country is different, and the amount required to invest or donate varies. In Austria we are talking about 3 to 10 million euros, whereas in Albania it's about 400 and 500,000 euros. We also have the Caribbean passports with 5 competitors in the market: Antigua, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Kitts. These 5 range from $300 to $400,000 depending on the method chosen, the country, and the processing time. It can be either a donation or real estate, but if you choose the real estate option, I want to warn you, do not fall in love with it, because as you know, a hurricane can come overnight and you are left without a house or hotel suite. You have to be very careful about that. Grenada is the one with the fewest problems, as it's the farthest from the Caribbean hurricane belt. If I had to pick one, it would be Grenada, since it's the only one with an E2 treaty with the US, as it is not being penalized for it. The average time to get the passport is 12 to 15 months via real estate and 10 months by donation. This year we are seeing increasing pressure from the Schengen area and from the US, so we need to watch whether they continue to allow access to these regions. Of course, we also have El Salvador, an option few people choose because it requires a $1 million donation. But if you have 30, 40 or 50 million euros and don't mind giving away 1, 2 or 3% of your assets to gain citizenship, it's still an option. Then further down the list we have Cambodia, Jordan, Egypt, Vanuatu, Nauru, Sierra Leone. These are quite poor in terms of freedom of movement, but in the event of a disaster they could be extremely useful. You would be able to escape and enter this new country where you have already secured temporary or permanent residency and live there until this situation in your previous country is resolved. Or perhaps from this new country where you are already calm and safe, start exploring other options since you are no longer in the emergency. These are the initial options to get a passport without living there and within a short period, around 1 year. Also we have countries like Portugal, where if you invest 500,000 euros, after 5 years they will grant citizenship, requiring only around 7 days of presence per year. It's a naturalization process without strict residency requirements. You also receive the golden visa after around 3 years, one of the slowest in the Schengen area, and we are seeing documents of possible increasing the naturalization period to 10 years to obtain Portuguese citizenship without having to live there, but we'll have to see how that unfolds in the coming months. Now that we have explained the passport side of things, what we are really interested is in having legal residency in places we want to live, or at least in places that allow us to keep our residency without having to spend a minimum number of months each year. Of course, you can live in Serbia, Turkey, Grenada, Egypt, Vanuatu, or whichever country your passport allows, but maybe you don't want to live there because you don't like it as a country. That's why we secure residencies in places where citizenship by investment may not be available, but that still allows you to live there through temporary or permanent residency. You can fill out the form in the description if you are interested in expanding your freedom of movement or backup options. First up, we have Mexico, where you can get a temporary residency if you earn at least $4,500 per month for 6 months, or if you have had a savings and investment account with at least $70,000 for 12 months. Once approved, you only need to visit the country to complete the immigration process and then renew the residency the following year. This gives you a 3-year temporary residency without needing to live there in Mexico during any of the 4 years in total. After that, you get the permanent residency. If you are from Spain, like me, 2 years of continuous residency can grant citizenship. But the key advantage of Mexican residency is that you don't live to live there to maintain it. And as I mentioned in other videos, I'm a temporal resident in Mexico and I plan to live there 2 years in order to get the second passport. Next one is Paraguay, where you can obtain temporary residency simple by presenting a clean criminal record. You only need to visit the country for 24 to 72 hours to complete the process and you will be granted a 2-year temporary residency. After that, you qualify for permanent residency. During the temporary period, you only have to visit the country once every 365 days. For the permanent residency, it's once every 3 years to keep it active. Also, you can get direct permanent residency but not through buying property or making a bank deposit. Instead, you must create an active business with a minimum initial capital of $70,000. Leaving Paraguay aside, let's talk about Panama. You can obtain permanent residency by buying real estate or making a bank deposit of between $300,000 and $500,000. They don't require you to live there either, only to visit from time to time. The issue renewals every 2 years, but if you don't want to invest that amount and you are from a country that Panama considers a friendly nation, you can get temporary residency for 2 years, visiting only occasionally to renew it. One option is through starting a company. For example, I also want to mention the Dominican Republic. By purchasing real estate worth at least $200,000, they grant you permanent residency and they don't require you to live there either. In fact, you can get a second passport in under 1 year through this purchase and the right connections who can request your naturalization certificate from the government. You can also apply for a golden visa in the Schengen area if you are a non-US citizen, and if you are interested in any of the available countries like Hungary, Italy, Latvia, Portugal or Greece. The key is having multiple options where you can reside and multiple documents that let you move freely and identify yourself. That way, even if everything collapses with a bit of luck, since we can never know for sure, you will be able to escape that temporary chaos and be with your family in a safe new place with another document in hand where you can calmly decide whether to stay or move on from there. It's also worth getting certain residency with your second passport and not your first one, just in case you ever have to renounce the first one. Just this week, we helped a Venezuelan client organize his passport portfolio, so check the channel, take a look, and I will see you there.